Okay, so I'm sorry guys, I read the introduction very quietly, it seems like, and you have to have your volume up to like volume 10 or something. Not, well, on Chromebook, it's like a very high volume you have to put it at to hear me. So I'm going to move this closer, and I'm going to read a little bit louder, so you can actually hear my clear incantations. You can hear my clear voice, and you can understand me. And I might kick the Chromebook over, but whatever. So hopefully it doesn't break. And as you saw in the introduction, I almost fell off this thing a million times. Footsies! Here we go. Number the Stars by Lois, Lowry. My grandparent, my grandma, my Gigi, and my sister over there. It's kind of hard to read when I don't like reading in front of people. I do, but like, not that way. Okay. Chapter 1. Why are you running? I'll race you to the corner, Ellen. Anna Marie adjusted the thick leather backpack on her back so that her school books balanced evenly. Ready? She looked at her best friend. Ellen made a face. No, she said, laughing. You know I can't beat you. My legs aren't as long. Can't we just walk like civilized people? She was a stocky 10-year-old, unlike lanky Anna Marie. We have to practice for the athletic meet on Friday. I know I'm going to win the girls' race this week. I was second last week, but I've been practicing every day. Come on, Ellen, Anna Marie pleaded, eyeing the distance to the next corner of Copenhagen Street. Please. Ellen hesitated, then nodded and shifted her own rucksack of bags on her shoulders. Oh, all right. Ready? She said. Go, shouted Anna Marie, and the two girls were off, racing along the residential sidewalk. Anna Marie's silvery blonde hair flew behind her, and Ellen's dark pigtails bounced against her shoulders. Wait for me, wailed little Kirsty, left behind. But the two older girls weren't listening. Anna Marie outdistanced her friend quickly, even though one of her shoes came untied as she sped along the street of Osterbrogade. Past the small shops and cafes of her neighborhood, here in the northeast Copenhagen, laughing, she skirted an elderly lady in black who carried a shopping bag made of string. A young woman pushing a baby in a carriage moved aside to make way. The corner was just ahead. Anna Marie looked up, panting. Just as she reached the corner, her laughter stopped. Her heart seemed to skip a beat. Halt, the soldier said in a stern voice. The German word was as familiar as it was frightening. Anna Marie had heard it often before, but it had never been directed at her until now. Behind her, Ellen also slowed and stopped. Far back, little Kirsty was plodding along, her face in a pout because the girls had waited for her. Anna Marie stared up. There were two sets of them. That meant two helmets, two sets of cold eyes glaring at her, and 4 tall, shiny boots planted firmly on the sidewalk, blocking her path to home. And it meant 2 rifles, gripped in the hands of soldiers. She stared at the rifles first. Then, finally, she looked into the face of the soldier who had ordered her to halt. Why are you running? His harsh voice asked. His Danish was very poor. 3 years, Anna Marie thought with contempt. 3 years they've been in our country, and they still can't speak our language. I was racing with my friend, she answered politely. We have races at school every Friday. I want to do well, so I... Her voice trailed away. The sentence unfinished. Don't talk so much, she told herself. Just answer them, that's all. She glanced back. Ellen was motionless on the sidewalk, a few yards behind her. Farther back, Kirsty was sulking and walking slowly toward the corner. Nearby, a woman who had come to the doorway of the shop was standing silently watching. One of the soldiers, a tall one, moved toward her. Anna Marie recognized him as the one she and Ellen called in whispers, the giraffe, because of his height and the long neck that he extended from a stiff collar. He and his partner were always on this corner. He prodded to the corner of her backpack with the stock of his rifle. Anna Marie trembled. What is in here? He asked loudly. From the corner of her eye, she saw the shopkeeper move quietly back into the shadows of the doorway, out of sight. School books, she answered truthfully. Are you a good student? The soldier asked. He seemed to be sneering. Yes. What is your name? Anna Marie Johansson. Your friend, is she a good student too? He was looking beyond her, at Ellen, who hadn't moved. Anna Marie looked back too, and saw that Ellen's face, usually rosy-cheeked, was pale and her dark eyes were wide. She nodded at the soldier. Better than me, she said. What is her name? Ellen. And who is this? He asked, looking to Anna Marie's side. Kirsty had appeared there, suddenly scowling at everyone. My little sister. She reached down for Kirsty's hand, but Kirsty, always stubborn, refused it and put her hands on her hips defiantly. The soldier reached down and stroked her little sister's short, tangled curls. Stand still, Kirsty and Anna Marie ordered silently, praying that somehow the obstinate 5-year-old would receive the message. But Kirsty reached up and pushed the soldier's hand away. Don't, she said loudly. Both the soldiers began to laugh. They spoke to each other in rapid German that Anna Marie couldn't understand. She's pretty like my own little girl, the tall one said in a more pleasant voice. Anna Marie tried to smile politely. Go home, all of you. Go study your school books and don't run. You look like hoodlums when you run. The two soldiers turned away. Quickly, Anna Marie reached down and grabbed her sister's hand before Kirsty could resist. Hurrying the little girl along, she rounded the corner. In a moment, Ellen was beside her. They walked quickly, not speaking, with Kirsty between them, toward the large apartment building where both their families lived. When they were almost home, Ellen whispered, suddenly, I was so scared. Me too, Anna Marie whispered back. As they turned to enter the building, both girls looked straight ahead toward the door. They did it purposely so that they would not catch eyes or attention of two more soldiers, who stood with their guns on this corner as well. Kirsty scurried ahead of them through the door, chattering about the picture she was bringing home from kindergarten to show Mama. For Kirsty, the soldiers were simply a part of the landscape, something that had been there on every corner, as unimportant as lampposts throughout her remembered life. Oh gosh. Are you going to tell your mother? Ellen asked Anna Marie as they trudged together up the stairs. I'm not. Mother would be upset. No, I won't either. Mama would probably scold me for running on the street. She said goodbye to Ellen on the second floor where Ellen lived, and continued on to the third, practicing in her mind a cheerful greeting for her mother, a smile, and a description of today's spelling test in which she had done well. But she was too late. Kirsty had gotten there first, and he poked Anna Marie's book bag with his gun. Hold on. Kirsty had gotten there first, and he poked Anna Marie's book bag with his gun, and then he grabbed my hair. Kirsty was chattering as she took off her sweater in the center of the apartment living room. But I wasn't scared. Anna Marie was, and Ellen too, but not me. Miss Johansson rose quickly from the chair by the window where she had been sitting. Miss Rosen, Ellen's mother, was there too, in the opposite chair. They'd been having coffee together, as they did many afternoons. Of course, it wasn't really coffee, though the mothers still called it that, having coffee. There had been no real coffee in Copenhagen since the beginning of the Nazi occupation. Not even any real tea. The mothers sipped at hot water flavored with herbs. Anna Marie, what happened? What is Kirsty talking about? Her mother asked anxiously. Where's Ellen? Miss Rosen had a frightened look. Ellen's in your apartment. She didn't realize you were here. Anna Marie explained. Don't worry, it wasn't anything. It was the two soldiers who stand on the corner of Osterbrogade. You've seen them. You know the tall one with a long neck? The one who looks like a silly giraffe? She told her mother and Miss Rosen of the incident, trying to make it sound humorous and unimportant, but their uneasy looks didn't change. I slapped his hand and shouted at him, Kirsty announced importantly. No, she didn't, Mama. Anna Marie reassured her mother. She's exaggerating, as she always does. Miss Johansson moved to the window and looked down to the street below. The Copenhagen neighborhood was quiet. It looked the same as always. People coming and going from the shops, children at play, soldiers on the corners. She spoke in a low voice to Ellen's mother. They must be edgy because of the latest resistance incident. Did you read it in Die Friedenski about the bombings in Hillerød and Nørrebro? Okay, it's DEFRIEDANSK. So that's what I'm trying to say, guys. Although she pretended to be absorbed In unpacking her school books, Anna Marie listened, and she knew what her mother was referring to. Die Freie Danske, the Free Danes, was an illegal newspaper. Peter Nielsen brought it to them occasionally, carefully folded and hid among ordinary books and papers. Mama always burned it after she and Papa had read it, but Anna Marie heard Mama and Papa talk, sometimes at night, about the news they had received. That way, news of sabotage against the Nazis, bombs hidden and exploded in their factories that produced war materials and industrial railroad lines that damaged so that the goods couldn't be transported. And she knew what the resistance meant. Papa had explained when she overheard the word and asked. The resistance fighters were Danish people, no one knew who, because they were very secret. Oh my God. Who were determined to bring harm to the Nazis however they could. They damaged their German trucks and cars and bombed their factories. They were very brave. Sometimes they were caught and killed. I must go speak with Ellen, Miss Rosen said, moving towards the door. You girls walk a different way to school tomorrow. Promise me, Anna Marie? And Ellen will promise too. We will, Miss Rosen, but what does it matter? There are German soldiers on every corner. They will remember your faces, Miss Rosen said, turning in the doorway to the hall. It is important to be one of the crowd, always. Be one of many. Be sure they never have a reason to remember your face. She disappeared into a hall and closed the door behind her. He remembered my face, Mama, Kirsty announced happily, because he said I looked like his little girl. He said I was pretty. Even if he has such a pretty little girl, why doesn't he go back to her like a good father? Miss Johansson murmured, stroking Kirsty's cheek. Why doesn't he go back to his own country? Mama, is there anything to eat? Anna Marie asked, hoping to take her mother's mind away from the soldiers. Take some bread and give a piece to your sister. With butter? Kirsty asked hopefully. No butter, her mother replied. You know that. Kirsty sighed as Anna Marie went to the bread box in the kitchen. I wish I could have a cupcake, she said. A big yellow cupcake with pink frosting. Her mother laughed. For a little girl, you have a long memory, she told Kirsty. There hasn't been any butter or sugar for cupcakes in a long time. A year, at least. When will there be cupcakes again? When the war ends, Miss Johansson said. She glanced through the window down to the street corner where soldiers stood, their face impassive beneath metal helmets when the soldiers leave. Alright. That was chapter 1 of Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. I may or may not read the second chapter. So that could have been a trailer for you. If you like World War II books, kind of emotional. I don't really remember the ending. It might be a happy ending. Okay. Okay, hold up. I'll be right back. It's a happy, sad, emotional ending. And it's about World War II. Oh, bug. It's about World War II. I always love learning about World War II and watching movies and TV shows about it. I'm like fascinated in wars, and my favorite's the American Revolution. This World War II is my favorite. This is my favorite World War II book, and then Adolf Hitler. Who is Adolf Hitler is one of my favorites. It's a book about Adolf Hitler. I think that's how you say it. He was a terrible person, according to my mother and that book. Still can't believe that book. It's a little. I like it. I like World War II, guys. So, yeah, that's a good book. I may or may not read the second chapter. You can get it at your library, I believe, or at a bookstore. The last bookstore I went to didn't have that, so. But it will come in one day at the next strange bookstore. Alright, so that is it for today. There are ants on my Chromebook and ants on my legs, and oh my gosh, I need help. Alright, yeah. I'm good with ants now. Alright, bye!